Night full of excuses. Turn it up, the Ango show, here we go. Rumor mill spin, every little sin. What's the new fallout? Who took a route out? Fans scream loud, make the show proud. Backstage drama, full of armor. Who's the charmer? Tag teams, break dreams, plot schemes, injuries and mysteries, chasing victories. Gossip wild like a runaway child. Turn it up, the Ango show, here we go. Rumor mill spin, every little sin. What's the new fallout? Who took a route out? Fans scream loud, make the show proud. Big moves, pay-per-views, breaking all the news. Scandals revealed, deals sealed, who'll be healed? Trash talkers, night stalkers, ring walkers. Next big match, can't scratch this batch. Turn it up, the Ango show, here we go. Rumor mill spin, every little sin. What's the new fallout? Who took a route out? Fans scream loud, make the show proud.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are live. It is January 20th, 2025. The real ratings war has started because the Ango Show Live is going head to head with the 60th presidential inauguration. Donald Trump is becoming president today, and I guess this is the real ratings war. This is like AEW versus NXT. This is like WCW versus WWE. This is
right now we are head to head with CNN, Fox, MSNBC, you name it. We're head to head with them.
Yes, but let's take your mind off politics. Let's talk about wrestling.
Come on, man.
Shout out to everybody in the chat. Guys, if you could do me a favor and blow up the likes on this stream, I would greatly appreciate it. This is a big one. It was a very eventful weekend in professional wrestling. Definitely bigger than I could have ever expected. There was just tons and tons and tons of stuff that has happened. TNA Genesis went head to head with GCW at Hammerstein Ballroom. We got some reports of some drama with Britt Baker and AEW. We got PCO smashing the TNA Digital Media Championship. I'm going to reveal to you guys the reason as to why that relationship has fallen through. There is just so much to discuss. It was a great weekend for professional wrestling fans. It was a great weekend for me personally. Like, damn, I'm excited to be here. I missed y'all. Billy, what up, my boy?
What's up, Ango, my boy? How you doing?
I'm good. Frozen. Guys, I don't know what's going on with Billy. His shit's frozen. It's okay. Let's just keep it like this. Let's just keep Billy frozen on the screen. Billy, don't even worry about it. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't.
Yeah, if it comes back, it comes back.
At least we got the audio of Billy at this point.
Yes.
Poor guy. I don't know, man. This guy, Billy has been such a trooper because the last few streams, he had to go and he would go to work and then he would just set up his stream at work and everything like that. And he wasn't feeling too good and he was moving around his equipment. And today his camera just isn't working for some reason. It keeps freezing. It's weird.
Oh my goodness.
But
my goodness.
At least we got his audio source, so that's cool.
We got something here.
We got something. Billy, first and foremost, do you believe in Joe Hendry?
I do. I do believe in Joe Hendry. Do you believe in Joe Hendry?
Always have, always will, my friend.
That's good.
Guys, Joe Hendry finally won the world championship at Genesis, and yeah, just really, really amazing stuff there. Let's make myself full screen.
There you go.
While Billy's there.
Yep.
Cool. So we got Billy on the stream with audio. But yeah, Joe Hendry finally won the World TNA Championship at Genesis. I did not think it was going to happen. If you guys follow me on X, I was very clear about that. I did not think TNA would do it. But TNA did a very good job with TNA Genesis. It was a very good pay-per-view. The crowd was great. They really just sold a lot of tickets. And I wanted to talk a little bit about that too, because I think there's a lot of people who are going to have that conversation about TNA. I do think it is bad faith when people are saying TNA is the number 2 company, because I don't think they got the money that Tony Khan has. But it was very, very impressive to see what they've done this past year, in 2024. And now TNA Genesis kicking off the year with just a very good, very, very good pay-per-view. TNA NXT crossover. We got a glimpse of that. But we got Joe Hendry. Winning the world championship. Billy, talk to me about your reaction when you see him beat Nick Nemeth. JBL gets involved. He's delivering clotheslines from hell. And then,
well, it's funny because we're going to see JBL tonight on Monday Night Raw. Right? That was announced last week. So, I mean, I'll tell you what, just naturally excited. Number one, big shout out to Nick Nemeth. I made a video on TikTok about it. Big shout out to him for just doing the job, but also Joe Hendry finally getting what he deserves. I mean, this guy has worked so hard for TNA and really, really been like the catapult to help put them back on the map, right? I mean, we've seen the stuff that he did with TNA and whatnot, or with NXT, excuse me, and just completely changed the direction of TNA and where they were going. So, I mean, just overall, huge fan. Loved what happened last night. The finish couldn't have been any better, and it was just naturally like such a big pop and such a packed room too. I mean, you love to see it.
Yeah. No, I mean, a lot of credit has to go to TNA here. They were at the Curtis Caldwell Center. We recently saw Ring of Honor there, and TNA had actually done a better job of selling seats than AEW's ROH brand, which I think is very good for TNA. Obviously TNA needs to be competitive, and they need to put on big events, and obviously they're going to get a little bit of help from WWE, which we can't ignore. For sure. But it was really cool seeing Joe Hendry kind of, go for this opportunity, and a lot of people have been wondering if TNA was going to do it. And I thought what was really cool for me personally was the fact that I was wrong. I don't know if I had faith as much in TNA creatively, because I thought Kazarian was going to cash in his Call Your Shot gauntlet trophy. Yeah. And he tries to, but then obviously JBL comes out there and he hits that clothesline from hell. So I like that. I mean, I thought TNA was going to screw me over and have him keep chasing the belt and maybe wait for Slammiversary. But the thing that I've learned, Joe Hendry was going to cool off 1,000% if he didn't win. Like, if they did not give him the world title belt, I think he would have cooled off to a point where he lost all momentum. And
for sure.
I do believe Joe Hendry will be in the Royal Rumble, and Joe Hendry going to the Royal Rumble and being in the Royal Rumble with the World Championship is a better look than being in the Royal Rumble without it. So I think Tommy Dreamer and the creative team at TNA kind of knew that maybe going into this. And obviously I'm just making the assumption he's going to be in the Royal Rumble because WWE wants those numbers. But very, very happy to see Joe Hendry win the TNA World Championship. And it was a very good thing for TNA. When you guys look at the pay-per-view that they had, this was TNA involving NXT without letting NXT overshadow them. And I don't ever want WWE stars on NXT overshadowing TNA, if that makes sense. So I was very happy about that. And we're going to talk a little bit about TNA Genesis for sure, because there were some things I really, really liked about it. Give me 1 second, because we did get a couple super chats, and I want to get those through. We do have a super chat goal as well, so keep that in mind, guys. Luke Newman dropping $1.99. He says, I'm watching both TAS and the inauguration. Shout out to Luke Newman. Yeah,
Right.
I mean,
Stay in tune.
this is listen, obviously for a lot of people, some people like politics and they like watching it, and our job here is to take your focus away from the stresses of the real world, and that's what makes this stuff incredibly fun. So shout out to you, Luke Newman, for tuning in. Tolino Channel back with a super chat, 400 rupees. Back when Impact failed to sell tickets and losing big stars, Jordan Grace and Josh Alexander worked really hard to represent TNA on everything, every wrestling promotion, and now exiting TNA with sold out crowd. Hard work pays off. So I definitely want to talk about that. So let's talk about that really quick, Billy. Mm-hmm. You have seen TNA grow, and you're not the biggest viewer of TNA. You've made that pretty clear. So
yes,
they are losing Jordan Grace. They're losing Josh Alexander. When you see that TNA had a packed out arena and the crowd was into it, what's like your reaction to that?
So my initial reaction is like, number one, big shout out to TNA for how far that they've come, man. I mean, you've been a gradual viewer of TNA and you've been watching for quite some time. But Jordan Grace and, just seeing all these reactions from these people, I mean, it's so deserving, right? Number one, great job for bringing TNA back to like what feels like a very prominent time, right? Yeah. Beforehand, it seemed like, with switching the owners and stuff like that, like it was just kind of on like the dwindle. It was just kind of phasing out, right? Yeah. But it seems like they fixed that problem, and it seems like, all these reactions that they're getting, it's beautiful to see, man. It's beautiful to see.
Yeah, and it's really tough to beat TNA in this situation because the constant argument is that they are, okay, well, you're losing Josh Alexander, you're losing Jordan Grace, like you're losing your top stars. But the thing about TNA is that's how it's always been. TNA has always had this problem, and I don't think people realize it, but TNA has always had this problem where they lose stars, but they figure out a way to make it work with whoever else they have left on their roster. So yesterday we kind of saw like a passing of the torch moment between Mike Santana and Josh Alexander. Guys, I'm not saying it's the best match on the card because Jordan Grace and Tessa Blanchard was really, 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 really good. But Josh Alexander and Mike Santana to me was like the most fun that I had watching the show. And Santana, it's an I quit match. Josh Alexander quits, and then he says he quits TNA, which we know he's going to be a free agent in February. Santino Marella goes backstage with him and tells Josh Alexander, you can't quit TNA. You're under contract. I'll see you on Thursday because they will be live Thursday. Yep. And obviously that's going to tie into a story. But if Josh Alexander and Jordan Grace are leaving, well, now this offers an opportunity for Mike Santana to really get that serious singles push.
Yeah. Somebody had left a comment on one of my videos, on one of my shorts that I posted, saying that it's if your company is relying on Mike Santana to potentially be the top guy, then that's kind of absurd. And the only thing that I could think about is why. Why is that the case? Why is Mike Santana not a good person to lead a company? If you look at the work that he's doing in TNA, I think we can both agree that this is some of the best work that he's doing, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So I guess I question the audience a little bit here on why. Why is it that we are going forward and saying, well, Mike Santana and he's not a good person to lead a company? I literally have to ask why. If you look at that match and how exciting that it was, why is he not a good person to lead a charge?
So the same thing was said about Penta in 2019 when he was Impact World Champion.
Yes.
Was it 2019 or 2017? I don't know. I get my years mixed up. But when he was world champion in Anthem, when Anthem first came in and he was doing his thing as world champion, a lot of people said Penta can't do it. But Penta goes in there and wins singles gold and does a fantastic job holding it down. There was a lot of people. I think the IWC, the way that it works is they think TNA is the same TNA that it was in 2010. And
right.
I disagree heavily with this because people are going to leave TNA for WWE or AEW. It's an opportunity for somebody to step up. And I feel like every person that's ever stepped up in TNA has done a remarkable job of carrying that company. And so to me, the way I look at it is, Mike Santana is a hell of a talent, and people just didn't realize that he could be a hell of a singles talent.
No, because let's be real here, he didn't get that opportunity in AEW.
For sure. Even when there was issues between him and Ortiz and AEW, and they allowed him to come back and do something singles, it was very, very short-lived. And so
it was very limited. It was very limited.
I don't think Tony Khan knows how to book somebody in that spot. I think TNA, and more specifically Anthem, have kind of found a rhythm of like, we understand people are going to leave our company, and we're going to bring people into our company in the meantime as well. But when somebody leaves, we have to give that opportunity to somebody else. And for TNA, I'm very happy that they've always figured it out. This is an issue that Anthem has always had since Anthem bought TNA, but it's one of the things that makes TNA special in the fact that like you will see somebody new carry the torch. And so
for sure,
like going back to that super chat, yes, Josh Alexander and Jordan Grace, they saw some very, very, very poor moments in that company. They know what it's like when TNA or Impact could only sell 200 tickets to a show, and they were there. They witnessed that. So for them to go into Curtis Caldwell and outsell Ring of Honor, and they didn't have heavy WWE involvement throughout the show. Yes, they've had some moments where people crossed over, but it didn't do anything. Like, it wasn't like a whole bunch of NXT people randomly just got announced for a match on the pay-per-view, right? Like, they were selling this card the way it was. I'm proud of TNA. I will always be proud of TNA.
I was about to say, for you, especially somebody who's watched from legitimately what feels like, you know, because I'm pretty sure you told me that TNA was kind of how you got your start a little bit before the AEW thing, because I know AEW is kind of what blew you up. But beforehand, you talked about TNA a little bit. Is that correct?
Yeah, so like a lot of people don't know that when I started covering wrestling on YouTube, 2011, 2012, I only covered TNA. Like that was my thing. I liked TNA. I always liked TNA more than WWE, like around that time period. And when I fell out of love with professional wrestling and I stopped watching it for several years as like a young teen or whatever, when I started watching TNA, it was like, ooh, this stuff got me back, you know? So I was always a big fan of TNA, and that's what I was covering. And then obviously throughout the years, like it's very well documented, guys. If you watch my show, you guys know this, but I've built some great connections with TNA and the people there. And there's a lot of people in that company that have shown me love. And so for me, the way that I look at it is like, fuck yeah. Like, I want to see you guys win. I want to see you guys win.
Right.
But, and I've been very adamant. I will never change my opinion on things. Like, if I think something's bad, I will say something's bad.
I was about to say, I don't think it's a bias thing.
Yeah, it's not a bias thing, but it makes me happy to see that this is a group of people that have figured it out, because there was a lot of times where I genuinely didn't believe they would be sticking around. And that's obviously hard when you grow up as a fan of something where it's like, hey, it might not be a thing anymore. So, you know, Josh Alexander, Jordan Grace, my hat goes off to them. But now there's got to be other people to lead this company forward. And
for sure,
this is why I think I love the partnership so much, because there's currently a weakness in NXT where this is a big thing too. The main event scene in NXT is garbage. Like, I keep complaining about it. And right now, TNA, which historically speaking, TNA has always shit on everybody when it comes to women's wrestling. Now they're kind of weakened with Jordan Grace leaving and so many of these free agents joining WWE. They obviously lost Deonna Purrazzo and Taya Valkyrie to AEW.
Yeah, but then you see Cora Jade walk in, and you're like, oh, okay, well, is it that bad?
Exactly. So now there's an opportunity where NXT's women's division is really strong and they can go and help TNA. And there's the men's division that is very weak in NXT that can now be helped by TNA. So I love that partnership. And what I really love is the fact that TNA is going to march forward and they're going to have opportunities for new people and young people to come up and take that brass ring. And I look at Joe Hendry and I'm like, man, this guy is going viral outside of professional wrestling. They have the UBS Arena event, you know, in the summer, Slammiversary.
Slammiversary.
Dude, I'm going on Twitter and I'm seeing TNA stars at hockey games at UBS Arena. I'm seeing them promote Slammiversary at UBS Arena. Like, this is massive for TNA. This is
they're following a WWE strategy.
They are. And I do want to talk a little bit about a WWE strategy because there are a couple more super chats. But before we get to those super chats, let's just touch on this really quick.
Yeah.
TNA was in Texas yesterday. TNA was, I don't know if they planned this. I don't know if this was like in cahoots with WWE or if it's all coincidental. But WWE is in Texas this week, and they're for Raw, and they're also in Texas for San Antonio for Saturday night's main event. So I don't know if this could be a good idea, but Billy, you could tell me what you think. Okay. We know that WWE has these PLEs where, you know, it might be in Chicago, it might be in New York, it might be in Texas. When TNA does their live shows, I would start talking to WWE about, hey, let's promote a weekend full of wrestling where TNA is live this Thursday in Texas. By the way, you could check out Saturday night's main event, which is just a couple, you know, it's a 20-minute drive away from where we're at. Go check out Saturday night's main event. And then WWE could promote TNA's live show as well, or NXT, and then also kind of grouping in like WrestleMania weekend. WrestleMania weekend, TNA should go live Thursday. Royal Rumble weekend, TNA should go live Thursday. So that way, before you go to a WWE event, you have an opportunity to go check out NXT invading TNA.
Which I think is actually something that is going to happen. Like, I think if you look at like where we're at right now with like where we stand and how fresh and new it is, I actually think that that's a strategy that they may follow. Like, I see that potentially being a thing, especially with those big 4 pay-per-views. Not even saying that all of them are like, you know, lesser or whatever. I'm just saying under the pretense that WWE would be right to promote TNA in that aspect, because all it does is help WWE. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And
also TNA gains from that as well.
For sure.
You know, so it's a win-win for both of them. So yeah, I could definitely see that happening.
Yeah. Shout out to Tolino Channel for the 400 rupees. Luke Newman dropping $1.99. He says, I believe in Joe Hendry in the Royal Rumble. Guys, don't get your hopes up. Don't expect Joe Hendry to win the Royal Rumble, right?
Well, I can imagine he shows up.
Because even when Jordan Grace didn't win the Royal Rumble, the IWC started to freaking cry about it. They're like, yeah, they buried her. And then Mickey James, they buried her. Dude, it's all about brand visibility, bringing that title into a major PLE, having that moment where it goes viral with Joe Hendry in the crowd waving and saying, I believe in Joe Hendry. So, yeah, I believe Joe Hendry 100% in the Royal Rumble, bringing that belt with him. I actually would love to see Joe Hendry, you know, I would love to see him appear on NXT more often too. Tuesday's NXT is going to be very telling because at Genesis, by the way, we saw Ashante the Adonis do it like an open challenge with Jake Something. Yeah, so, I would love to see Jake Something cross the line and go into NXT Tuesday.
So I was about to say cross the line. I think that's going to be the pay-per-view that they do
instead of Worlds Collide.
I think it's going to be cross the line.
Listen, I don't care what they call it, but it's time that they freaking do it.
I don't know. That's a fire name.
Yeah. Cross the line is very, very, very.
I seen him playing into that last night. I was like, oh, that's a name.
It's very symbolic for TNA in their history. So now that it applies to WWE and them doing a crossover, it could even take that more mainstream appeal. Thank you, Luke Newman, for the super chat. We also got a super chat from Tolino Channel for 100 rupees. He says, wrestlers like Drew McIntyre, Lashley, LA Knight came to TNA to prove their worth. Now these wrestlers are big draws. TNA is the land of opportunities. That's exceptionally well said because that is very, very true. TNA is the place where, you know, if you get fired by WWE, people are like, oh, well, it's just another person going to TNA. But like look at Dana Brooke, for example. I want to use Dana Brooke as an example. I love the fact that in TNA, she gets utilized. She didn't have to become world champion. She doesn't have to win every single match, but she's like a prominent figure on TV. Okay.
Yep.
Perfect example is Dana Brooke is the perfect example of somebody who wasn't really given the opportunity in WWE. They put her down in NXT for a little bit. She goes to NXT and people are like, oh my God, Dana Brooke is like actually not that bad of a performer, right? So then She gets released. She leaves the company. She goes into TNA territory and she gets utilized. Now, this is why it is sometimes beneficial for somebody to go to TNA, because that opportunity wouldn't have existed before. Vince McMahon put Dana Brooke on TV, whether she was ready or not. She wasn't necessarily ready. She got met with blowback from the IWC. And then you see her go to TNA and you're like, damn, bro, like her presentation's really cool. Her and George Iceman are like the perfect combination. It's like, you know, and then they have this women's tag team division that they're working on. So what do? They put Ash by Elegance, Heather by Elegance together, and it's like a tag team thing. And yesterday they come out and they do like the Dallas Cowboy cheer stuff. And like, but to me, it felt like Tolino Channel's super chat applies to that, because Drew McIntyre was once thrown into the WWE at a time where he wasn't ready. A lot of people didn't know that LA Knight, Eli Drake, was in WWE NXT early days and he wasn't ready. A lot of people forget about that. A lot of people forget about that.
For sure.
Early NXT days, Eli Drake, LA Knight, he was there. And I always forget his name. It was like John Draper or some shit, or like, what was it? Now I'm gonna look it up. Eli Drake. What was his name? It was something.
Hold on. Eli.
Sean Ricker, Slate Randall. Yeah. It was like some weird shit, bro.
Well, I mean, if you look at numerous names that, I mean, let's take our current WWE champion for an example, right? Leaves WWE, goes and makes a name for himself, and TNA just so happened to be one of the homes that helped him make a name for himself. He goes on and he starts that company, and then so on and so forth, but you have to understand that without TNA, does that company ever really start in the first place? I mean, maybe, but regardless of the fact, it started in TNA. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He was making a name for himself there. So I think TNA deserves like all the props in the world when it comes down to like, if not development, getting yourself back on your feet. If you don't want to give them credit for development, whatever, but definitely getting talent back on their feet.
Yes.
You know,
which is why we need a healthy wrestling ecosystem, my boy.
Yes.
Like, I don't like the NWA. I don't care for the NWA product. I need the NWA to succeed, and I need NWA to stick around, whatever means possible.
Yep.
You know why? Because maybe for somebody like Baron Corbin, he's come out and says he has no plans to sign a long-term contract, but Baron Corbin wants to wrestle. If Baron Corbin wants to do a stop in NWA, and maybe he does something really cool in NWA, and this is hypothetical, but if he does something really cool in the NWA, it helps the NWA, but it helps him keep working, and it helps him, maybe it changes his perspective where it's like, WWE says, hey, man, we love what you're doing in NWA. We want you to come back and bring that gimmick to us.
Yep.
Right?
That's the cool thing.
So the cool thing is, if everybody could benefit from it, the wrestling ecosystem being healthy, then everybody wins.
Yeah, look at Matt Cardona. Look at Matt Cardona, dude.
Yes.
That dude is like a perfect example of like, you can make it without WWE because the ecosystem is healthy. It's beautiful. You know what I mean?
Exactly. 100%. Shout out to Tolino Channel for the super chat again. Guys, keep hitting those super chats. We'll keep getting to them. I want to talk a little bit about, I want to talk to you about PCO. So,
yeah,
we have this situation over the past weekend. Obviously, TNA Genesis was a banger, but at the same time, we have GCW at Hammerstein Ballroom. Now, at Hammerstein Ballroom, Brett Lauderdale, I don't know, is that his last name, Lauderdale, right? Brett, the owner of GCW, he comes out with a little statement. Basically, some people look at it as shots at AEW, but really what he was doing was just saying how proud he was for GCW, basically outdrawing AEW and ROH at Hammerstein Ballroom.
Which they should be proud of that.
They absolutely should be. GCW has this event. Now, personally speaking, I did not think it was that great of an event. I don't know what it is about GCW at Hammerstein. I didn't think the first one was that great. I felt like this one was kind of just, there was a couple great moments, right? The moment that really stood out to me, though, and this was the moment that I think stood out to a lot of people, was the fact that PCO shows up and he destroys his digital media championship from TNA. Yeah. Now, A lot of people don't know this, but his contract ended with TNA at the end of 2024. Now, a lot of people may not know this, but I know, I've been told very specifically that PCO was promised a world championship in TNA when Scott D'Amore was in power. So what I was told was Scott D'Amore was basically offering people a opportunity to re-sign with the company. Hey, we're going to do a show in Montreal. PCO, we're going to give you the world title. Obviously, Scott D'Amore doesn't stick around with TNA. He gets booted from TNA. And then it becomes an issue where PCO now, he obviously signed with the company in terms of, hey, being given the world championship. He wasn't given the world championship. He was given the digital media championship, but he wasn't given the world championship. And now he's working under the leadership of a company that he doesn't necessarily like. He might be cool with people that work behind the scenes. He might be cool with the roster, but when it comes to the top,
doesn't mean it's where he wants to be.
Exactly. And obviously that's going to be really hard because you sign a contract with the premise of like, hey, I'm going to win the world championship. We're going to do it in Montreal. It's going to be a big moment. Sure enough, that doesn't happen. So PCO takes the digital media championship, beats it up with a jackhammer at GCW, tries to cut a promo, and then essentially they cut the feed on PCO. This is legitimate. This is legitimate. This is something that happens on GCW programming. Now, the real question is, did TNA know he was going to do it before? Did they not know he was going to do it before? What's like their whole philosophy there? I'm going to give you my reaction, Billy, but I want to know, just based on seeing this moment where he's destroying the belt and he's cutting this promo and this rant, what was your reaction to seeing that? And how do you think this all ties in with like TNA moving forward?
Well, I guess you have to question, are they getting rid of the digital media championship? Is that like a thing? Number two, is this dude shooting or is he working? What's he doing here? That was another question that I had. And then on top of that, it's you feel for the guy if it's real. I mean, if you go and look at like the Corey Graves situation, it's like damn, like this is a guy who's worked for the company and like, has done a lot for TNA, whether people like to believe it or not. If you're a consistent watcher of TNA, then you would know that PCO is a big part. Kind of like Corey Graves. It's like this guy helps him get all the way to Netflix. And then if it's real, then, you get the boot and it's like, dang, did he deserve that for real? You know what I mean? So, I think just overall, just a really crappy situation if it's real, but if not, and if it's not real, then I think it's just them potentially getting rid of that digital media championship. I'm not sure. Again, you can maybe collect my my thoughts here, Ango, but I'm not the biggest watcher of TNA. I don't know the actual significance of the digital media championship as much as I want to sit here and say like, oh yeah, I know the history of it and stuff like that. I don't. Yeah. You know what I mean?
I think the digital media championship was it was when I saw AJ Francis, Top Dollar, hold that belt. I was like, ooh, this guy is good. Like I liked him in WWE. I liked when he was doing Hit Row. I liked when I seen from him. I always thought, man, this guy could be something cool. He comes to TNA when he wins the digital media championship and he brings it around with him and he's holding it down. I'm like, that's what they need, right? Like that's what.
So do you think that he made that belt significant?
I think it was the most significant under when he held it.
Okay.
PCO wins it from him, and I feel like it lost its significance. So when I see him destroy the digital media championship, the two thoughts that come to my mind is that either TNA knew ahead of time that he was going to do that, and they were going to let that be the moment that it retires the belt. I think TNA has one issue specifically, and it is the booking of their mid-card titles. Moose did a really good job with the X Division Championship and defending it against Ace Austin.
I still do question why Moose has the X Division Championship.
The X Division Championship no longer has any limits to like weight and stuff like that.
All right.
But what I would do if I were TNA is if they knew that he was going to beat up the title, great, because then I would just replace it with something else. And if they didn't know at all that he was going to beat up the title, great, even better, because you just got a lot of promotion. And now go ahead and replace that title to begin with. They don't need the digital media championship. What they really need is another mid-card title, or just fully focus on the X Division championship. And listen, like the way I look at this too, and maybe they could take a note from AEW, but when AEW has their international championship and you see Konosuke Takeshita show up in DDT or another promotion, TNA is a company that works with AAA and they work with all these other companies, and now they're working with NXT. Have that championship being replaced by something where it's a traveling belt, you know? Don't make it exclusive to TNA digital media.
Right.
You know, something that you see on pre-shows or on TNA Plus or whatever.
Because that can add significance to the belt.
Exactly. So do something a little bit different. When I saw PCO do this, I mean, like I said, I do know that there is a lot of issue between him and Anthem. And I like PCO. I think he was presented extremely well in TNA, and they let him do some really cool things in TNA. So really quick, I want to ask you before we move on from this topic, since we've seen in like you're saying, you know, PCO in the situation with Anthem, do you think that we will see more superstars come out with this kind of problem towards Anthem? Because I know a lot of the superstars re-signed with the company based off of Scott D'Amore. Yeah.
So that's like a serious question. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you
So
think that we'll see more of this?
I do think that there is a time period in which we will see some people, when their contracts are up, I think we'll see them leave. I don't think we'll see people become problematic. Like PCO waited until his contract ended and then he did this, right?
Yeah. Right.
So I do think to a certain extent you will see this. I think there was a lot of people who re-signed under the notion that Scott was running things. Now, that is kind of problematic because Scott, you know, as much as I'm a big believer in Scott D'Amore, one thing that people aren't talking about is the fact that, like, you can't use the World Heavyweight Championship as a negotiation tactic. Like, I personally speaking, if I was a wrestling company, and this is not just TNA, but like AEW or WWE, I'm not signing you, guaranteeing you shit.
Right.
Hey,
I'm not putting anything on this contract that is contractually obligating you to essentially do something later in the future that I know I can't guarantee.
Yeah, because here's the thing: you could come into the company, you can get hurt. You could come into the company and not get over.
Right.
But there's just a lot of situations where I would not be guaranteeing that stuff, and that was a thing that I've heard specifically was that Scott was offering people, you know, world championships. And how true is that? I don't know. This is just stuff that I was specifically told. But PCO now goes on Twitter and he's speaking out about Anthem. And, you know, the thing is, it's a very tough situation. And it doesn't hurt TNA by any means. Like I said, this whole thing that happened at GCW, actually, it looks cool for TNA because TNA and GCW are smaller companies, first and foremost.
Right.
But also, this is like one of those situations where if TNA knew about it ahead of time, okay, no issue at all. But if they didn't know about it, no big deal. These other people that are in the company, they would have wished they could have had that PCO moment. If PCO was a young stud coming up in wrestling and he took the belt and destroyed it, that would have made his career. PCO is a little bit older. He's a veteran. You know, it's not that big of a deal, but that's obviously why I bring that up.
For sure.
So definitely interesting to see that go down. Definitely curious to see what TNA does, but I would replace that belt immediately or put all your focus on the X division, which is probably the most important thing.
Facts.
Tolino Channel dropping another super chat for 100 rupees. Imagine Baker going to WWE and become a non-problematic talent backstage. Boss Tony needs to change. Okay, so Billy, let's talk about the Britt Baker thing. The super chat.
Can we please? Because I got some thoughts on this.
Yeah, the super chat is very interesting because imagine Baker going to WWE and become a non-problematic talent backstage. And I don't want to think of this situation as another CM Punk situation. I do think they are two different things. But I do see a parallel to the CM Punk situation. So for those who don't know, there's reports that have come out by Wade Keller. I've talked about this on the main channel in a video. Britt Baker is essentially being off of TV. AEW is kind of like adding her to the list of people not being used until their contracts run out. Miro, Ricky Starks, Ray Phoenix, somebody else was on that list, Malachi Black. Basically, Britt Baker internally has been like added to that list. They don't plan on using her. She's become a problem backstage. The whole report is out on my main channel in my main video. Billy, you said you got to get some stuff off your chest. Let's hear it.
Oh, okay. All right. So this Britt Baker situation kind of drives me up a wall a little bit. Because I think there's two sides to this, right? I think there's one side that is like, oh yeah, Britt Baker is like a real problem and stuff like that. And she, has done a lot of harm backstage and they compare it to the CM Punk situation. Then there's this other side. There's this other side that says, okay, even if Britt Baker is a problem, why is Britt Baker a problem? Why, and this is my personal thought, so what I'm about to give you now is my personal thought. Why would we even allow for a talent to even have this kind of... why would we even have talent get to this point? Why are we allowing them to get to this point? Why are measures getting so high backstage that this is becoming a problem? What is the issue? Because, okay, I posted a video about this on TikTok. This is why I have so many thoughts, because people in my comment section were like, oh, your take's crazy, your take's crazy. Why is it crazy, though? Let me ask, why is this take crazy that I think, strictly based off of everything that is happening backstage, that we should not have this happen? Tony should just be a boss, and we should never allow things like this to get to a point. And everybody was like, oh, well, look at the CM Punk situation and look at how that turned out. Okay, I hear you. Are we going to say that the Young Bucks were wrong in this situation? Are we going to say that Kenny was wrong in this situation? Are we going to say that Jack Perry is wrong in this situation? Because I hear a lot of people giving only this one side. Well, it was only CM Punk and it was only Britt Baker. No, this is a multitude of people. What did MJF do to get Britt Baker to the point to where she's considered a quote-unquote bad talent in the back and we're just not going to book her? It's all friends wrestling. That's why. I don't care what people say. It is all friends wrestling. I was a constant lover of AEW. I watched it every week, and I loved it. I loved the passion behind it. I loved what they were doing. I loved the involvement that they had. But here today, where I sit, things have gone wrong. And yes, we've talked about it numerous times. Tony is damned if he does and damned if he doesn't. But right now, he's damned that he's doing. He's damned that he's doing and taking away from somebody like Britt Baker, who essentially, whether you like to believe it or not, guys, she's going to go and she's going to find work. And she potentially could go to the WWE. And you want to know what happens? Look at CM Punk. If we're going to use CM Punk as a scenario, let's take example of that. CM Punk walked into the WWE and guess what happened? Nothing. He's fine. We have heard no backstage bullshit drama, none of it. It just blows my mind that this is the narrative that people are coming up with. It's, oh, well, Britt Baker, she shouldn't be a problem, and she needs to be better. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I believe as grown adults, we probably should be better. But what drove you to that point, and why is there a boss that's ever allowing it to get to that point? Ango, I'm done.
Yeah, I think you hit a couple great points. I think for me, the question is, why is there such a bad cultural problem backstage? Why is this something where, we're looking at a report, okay? Me and Billy have not been backstage in AEW to see what Britt Baker did or whatever. We're just going off a report. But the thing that I'm most curious about is, like, a lot of these reports have one thing in common, and that is typically the backstage culture of AEW is messy. And I feel like that's just such a shitty thing to happen in a company where you're supposed to be the cool company and you're supposed to be the alternative and you're supposed to be what's different. And it's like Britt Baker was your number one person
in the women's division for sure.
Yeah, like this was the person who was holding it down. And then it's like, I see the Britt Baker thing, and it goes back to the super chat. Like, imagine her going to WWE and showing that she's not problematic. Well, I don't know Britt Baker on a personal level, so I'm not going to pass judgment on Britt Baker on a personal level.
Right.
But what would be the benefit of Britt Baker going to WWE and being problematic? There would be no benefit if you burn your bridge in AEW and then you burn your bridge in WWE, then all you're going to be is a medium paid talent. But in AEW and WWE, those are the two places to go and be a high paid talent. You know, the thing that I would actually really love to see in this particular case, I would love to see Britt Baker and AEW, whatever the issue is, I would love to see it get resolved. Because of the fact that, like, you could tell some really cool stories of Britt and Mercedes and Jamie Hayter, and there's a lot of things that could be done there to create compelling TV. So first and foremost, I would love to see this get resolved. If this doesn't get resolved, then I want to see Britt Baker go to WWE, and I want them to lean into this snarky attitude, Karen attitude that she supposedly has, and I want that to
play it on TV.
Play it on TV. Because you know what? The last time I saw Britt Baker on AEW TV, she was looking at Serena Deeb and saying, nobody cares. Nobody cares. Nobody cares, right? Go into WWE and literally portray this character. Be a freaking Karen. Rub people the wrong way.
The problem is that they're not going to do that. Tony's not. Remember this. Now, if you want to talk about the CM Punk situation, sure, we can. It's not going to happen. You want to know why it's not going to happen? Because Tony doesn't know how to make money this way. You could have did the CM Punk and Kenny thing. You could have did the CM Punk and Bucks thing. Here we go again. You have her play into this egomaniac, whatever. You could do it on TV. Make money from it.
Yeah.
What are we doing?
And if they don't make
We're
money
not
from
doing it.
And if they don't, then that's what I'm saying. WWE should lean into it yet again. Because I think WWE leaning into it is not only going to be great TV, but they are going to sell Britt Baker to the IWC as, hey, you guys were right. When in reality, when you find out backstage, Britt Baker was just being, you know, and this is the thing about AEW too. This has been a narrative comes out backstage about AEW and everybody immediately jumps to believe it without thinking of the opposite side of the narrative. And so WWE immediately, everybody said, hey, CM Punk is a problem backstage. CM Punk comes back to WWE and there's no reports of him being a problem backstage. That doesn't mean he wasn't a problem in AEW, but what it means is that you only heard one narrative where Punk was the problem and you didn't really understand. And then the only thing that saved CM Punk's ass was the fact that AEW actually was dumb enough to air the footage and it didn't look as bad as they all made it out to be, as bad as every report made it out to be. So Punk goes into WWE and he's a good guy now all of a sudden, and people can't really say anything because all they know is that one narrative without listening to the other. So if I were WWE, I 1000% lean into Britt Baker being this problem. And what I would do if I were WWE is I would put her on the main roster. I think she needs a little bit of work in the ring. I think she could be a little bit better as a talent, but I think Britt Baker is already good enough to be on
but
the main
even when
roster.
they had her wrestling, she was growing, right? I was about to say she was developing really fast and really well.
People don't realize that she wasn't the most experienced before coming into AEW, and she came into AEW and held that shit down like a fucking boss. So
I do not care what you say. They had WWE filing lawsuits between her and Ty Conti. Do you remember that match? Or it wasn't a lawsuit. They were tripping over it, though. Is that correct?
What are you talking about? Oh, with the death match shit? Where WWE?
Yeah, the death match.
I think it was something about the. I forgot what you're talking about. I know what you're talking about, but I forgot like the details. But yeah,
it was on Rampage.
Yeah, it was like because I think it was Vince, right? This was like 2019.
Yeah, Vince was having like a shit fit over it, dude.
So I do remember what you're talking about. Vince said something about them blading and cutting up blood and
the bleeding. Yes, that's what it was.
But yeah, people don't realize like she held it down for AEW for a long time, and Tony Khan got his new toys to play with, and then
as always,
it almost feels like in TNA people often celebrate the day ones that were with them, the OGs, right? And AEW, it's like being a fucking OG in their company is kind of like a curse,
Unless you're Darby Allin. And even that's kind of like a curse right now.
It's weird. It is what it is. The whole situation with Britt Baker is very crazy. Thank you, Tolino Channel, for your super chat. There was another super chat that followed through. Luke Newman dropping $1.99. He says Tony Khan has become petty just like Vince. I'm not going to make any personal remarks about Tony Khan in this situation because we're just going off the report. But if this report were to be true, I think Tony Khan needs to get very, very better at what he's doing because, like I said, it's a cultural thing. It's a backstage culture. Sure. If people cannot sit amongst each other and talk about their issues and their problems and they can't communicate, then what are you doing there?
Yeah,
wrestling,
you have to.
It's a team sport.
And it starts at the top.
And the way it is backstage in AEW, based on all these reports that we've ever seen, it's like this. It's not a team sport. It's very much, I got to do whatever. I guess that's wrestling in general, but in AEW, it seems like a more prominent thing where people are really willing to like go to dirt sheets and run off the dirt sheets and talk about shit that shouldn't be talked about. And like,
Ango. I seen a quote the other day. It was directly from our good offensive lineman on the Detroit Lions, Penei Sewell. He said, "I think it is absolutely crazy that people can blame one person for a team sport. It's that simple."
There you go. That sums it up. Shout out to Luke Newman. Shout out to Tolino Channel. Hopefully the stuff with Britt Baker gets resolved, and hopefully it's not a problem long term. Like I said, ideally I want her back in AEW, working AEW.
For sure.
But I want them to fix that culture backstage because this whole idea that people are going to go backstage and argue and complain and fight and have problems and pick people apart.
It's bullshit. It's bullshit.
I think everybody needs to grow the fuck up and realize that your company is not selling seats. Your company is not getting the ratings that it used to get. Your company is not putting together a compelling TV show like it used to. And you guys could all work together to make it a better product, or you could sit there and let reports come out like this and then make everybody look bad. Take some fucking accountability. I don't know. Straight up.
That's it.
Accountability. Easy as that.
That's it. Take accountability.
There was a super chat that came in from Superman Bassfisher for $5 Canadian. He says, "You don't think WWE guaranteed Cody Rhodes anything?" I don't.
Ooh, I don't either.
When they brought in Cody Rhodes, I definitely don't think they guaranteed him anything.
Although why do I feel like there was a point in time, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, where Cody talked about his contract and saying that he was guaranteed something along those lines in that documentary.
I don't remember.
I'd have to go back and watch.
I mean, if WWE promised Cody the title, they gave it to him, so they fulfilled their promise.
Right, I was about to say, I just think it's dumb, like we talked about earlier, to make any type of guarantee.
The only thing I thought they guaranteed was Cody saying that he needed to have his theme song.
Yeah, I think you might be right. I think
that was the only thing is he wanted.
That was guaranteed. He wanted to stay himself coming into WWE. Yeah. That was like his one thing to Vince.
If they offered him the world championship and negotiations, I mean, I think that's stupid because that's just dumb. But
yeah, I mean, like we talked about earlier, it's dumb to promise something that could essentially not happen, ownership changing later down the line.
I mean, at this point, it doesn't really matter because Cody became the face of the company. He's holding it down for TKO. Yep. I think he manifested. Yep. He knew this shit.
Yeah, he knew what was happening. He's a smart guy.
Isn't that insane?
It is. Dude, crazy week in pro wrestling, wouldn't you say? Crazy weekend.
Man. Yeah, I mean, it was a crazy weekend. And, for me, dude, I feel like wrestling's at a very, interesting time because we're seeing firsthand, all these companies are doing things. We're getting ready for WrestleMania soon. AEW's got some drama. WWE's got a little bit of drama. WWE's got this partnership with TNA. TNA goes out there and throws out a great pay-per-view. We didn't even talk about Tessa.
Oh Lord.
We didn't even rant about that or talk about Tessa, but Tessa and Jordynne Grace had a phenomenal match. The only criticism that people had is that the crowd was chanting Tessa Blanchard's a racist and they didn't like her, but her match with Jordynne Grace was phenomenal. And, the
match was good. The match was good.
I will say, Tessa Blanchard, what she should have done after she beat Jordynne Grace, when she beat Jordynne Grace, I think she should have picked up the microphone and apologized.
You think so? I don't.
Why?
Because I think there's already they're chanting that. That's already a bad look and a bad stigma around her.
But I think a lot of
she needs to find a real way to be genuine about it and apologize if they are going to keep her around. Because if she ignores it for too long, it's just going to continue to happen. I mean, dude, Hulk Hogan walked out on Monday Night Raw and he didn't even get that reaction. They're not going to want to keep that around unless they find a genuine result for that.
Yeah.
I don't know. Those are my thoughts.
Very interesting. We have hit our super chat goal, so let's watch this graphic go off on screen.
Oh!
Super chat goal is TNA Channel pulling up again. Yeah, shout out to Tolino Channel. Do you think Black will rewind the feud with Seth? Yeah, Malachi Black, Seth.
Oh, are you asking me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. I think you got to. And I think you tell it better than you told it the last time, hopefully. So, yeah, I do. I do think that is a feud that we will eventually see. What are your thoughts there?
World Heavyweight Championship, baby.
Oh, of course.
I feel like everybody should have known my answer.
Yeah, I did know your answer, but I just had to ask.
Have Seth beat Gunther, Aleister Black beats Seth, and I like the idea of Aleister Black and Seth Rollins, and
so do I. I'm a big fan of it.
It was funny because CM Punk called Seth Rollins the Monday Night Messiah on last week's Raw. So
did you see his Instagram post? CM Punk said that Drew and Seth are fighting for the Divas title tonight.
Oh my God.
I thought that was hilarious.
I can't wait for Raw tonight because I already know like Drew is having that rematch with Seth. And that's like, oh, this is gonna be good. This is gonna be some good shit. So
we're getting JBL on TV on a random Monday.
What's the plan with JBL, dog? He
no
goes to
idea,
GCW
bro.
and AAA, and he goes to all these companies. He'd be just clotheslining
This guy's
people.
everywhere.
Yeah,
this dude's everywhere.
I'm intrigued.
Yeah, me too.
I'm intrigued. He's gonna show up on Raw and just clothesline somebody and dip out. I swear, bro. WWE knows that that's what he's been doing, so they're gonna do that shit again. I'm gonna laugh hard as fuck.
I wonder how long it's gonna go tonight. I think that has to be like a new thing that we do here. I think it has to be how long does everybody? Yeah, guess how long Raw's gonna be tonight. I'm gonna say 2 hours.
All right, Billy thinks. Okay, listen. Billy guesses 2 hours. I'm writing this down. 2 hours. My guess is 2 hours and 43 minutes. And tomorrow,
okay, we're doing on the dot. I'm saying 207. Change my answer. 207.
Okay. So I say 2 hours and 43 minutes. We're gonna see who's right.
Okay.
I think tonight's Raw is gonna be very fun to see how it ends and how they do everything. And like, I can't wait till Raw tonight. I can't wait. There's another super chat from Luke Newman for $1.99. He says the damage has already been done. It can't be fixed. I think that's in regards to AEW and the.
No, he dropped it in the chat. That's to Tessa Blanchard.
To Tessa? Well, I don't see it. Oh, yes, yeah. I think the Tessa situation could always be rectified if she is genuine. From what I've been told that she's gone backstage and talked to everybody and like that kind of stuff. And that's cool. Obviously, those are the people that work with her, and they're going to have to decide.
Right.
But also, I don't think it would be a bad idea addressing the crowd. Yeah. I don't think it would be a bad idea. I think it would actually be a good idea to address the crowd.
I'd agree. You just have to find a genuine way to do it.
Yeah. That could have been the moment. Honestly, it could have been the moment. She just had this banger of a match, and obviously, you know that there's.
I think though, and this is where we can agree to disagree because I do agree with you that she needs to find a way to do it. The only reason why I say that was the wrong time is if you heard the chants, those chants weren't going to stop. People weren't looking and paying attention to the match at the time and what was happening during the match. They only cared about what was actually happening, and at that time, they felt like that was what they needed to chant. Sure, shit, they did.
Yeah. It's tough because Anthem's building her up. I mean, they had her defeat.
Yeah.
Jordan Grace,
For
and
sure. Yeah.
That's
Yeah. No, they definitely are.
yeah. I don't know, man.
I don't either, man.
Tough
But-
situation.
For sure. For sure.
I think addressing the crowd, it's very different than the Hulk Hogan situation because Hulk Hogan like apologized for being caught. I think that was the whole thing when Hogan was backstage to WWE, like I think the report came out that he apologized for like being caught with the cameras on, and he was telling people, "Hey, watch what you say,"
Yeah, I mean,
and like
yeah.
he wasn't like genuinely apologetic for the stuff that he did. So I think for Tessa, you could learn from that and maybe address people publicly and say, listen, like my issues have been rectified with the people they've hurt, but I've never apologized to you guys. And you know, like I don't know. It's a very, very difficult situation, and I don't really know the solution for it. But I do think Tessa doing that is.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would help her in comparison to Hogan. People never feel like Hogan genuinely was sorry.
Yeah, that's because he wasn't. Whether people like to believe it or not, you can look at Hulk Hogan and tell that dude's not sorry about it. But on the other hand, Tessa Blanchard, she still has time. That we can agree with. She can right her wrongs. I don't think it's too far gone to rewrite your wrong. You just got some explaining to do and some apologizing to do. I don't know. At least that's what the TNA fans were saying.
Yeah. There's one more topic that I want to talk about, and I saw Travis Richard. Travis Richard had mentioned this in the chat. So Wagner Jr. Basically in talks with WWE. According to Chris Featherstone from Sportskeeda, WWE is talking with the former GHC heavyweight champion about making the jump. There's no confirmation yet on how far those talks have progressed, but fans have already started connecting the dots. His social media activity has been getting attention. Speculation that WWE could very well be his next move. He did obviously announce that he is now a free agent. He just finished up with Pro Wrestling Noah. You know, he held the world champion, the heavyweight championship for 90 days. He held the tag team championship twice. He was national champion for like 300 and something days. This is something that's being talked about. Billy, I don't know how familiar you are with him.
I'm not too familiar, so I have seen a lot of these reports though.
So for you, because I'll have my own opinion on this. Yeah, that's probably gonna be different because I am a little bit more familiarized. But when you hear of these reports and see of these reports, what how do you react? What do you think? What's like your perspective on that?
Number one, good. I mean, WWE, anytime they can, because my guess is, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Ango, he would probably go to NXT. Is that correct?
That's what I would like to see.
Okay, then yes. If we're going to base it under that circumstance and that he goes to NXT, it would strictly be just to help that division and what is going on down there. And I think you add excitement too, because I think we can all agree. I watched a couple of his highlights. I seen it on YouTube. It's kind of exciting to watch, not gonna lie. So I think overall you get like this, just a new face, number one, and then you're also bringing in a very exciting style of wrestling into NXT. So, I mean, overall, I'd love to see it, and I think it would help that division in NXT.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be very, very honest. Like, I think he's extremely talented. You know, I look at NXT, and I see there is an issue in NXT with their main event scene. And what I really, really want from WWE NXT is to improve that division. And I want it to get to the point where people could kind of come in and like immediately make a change to it, right?
Yes, and make that big jump.
WWE has to, at some point, invest in that main event scene. They have to. Part of that is letting people come in with what makes them so good to begin with. So for him, I mean, he's got great packaging. He's got like, bro, there's this picture. I'm going to see if I can find it really quick from Pro Wrestling Noah entrance. Okay. And like he had like let me see if I can find it. Pro Wrestling Noah. Oh, yes. Bro.
Let me see.
I'm about to throw this on the stream right now.
Bet.
So I don't know if you can see it on the screen, but I just threw it on the screen.
Oh, there it is. Yep.
And I see this image and
Whoa.
like, just right. Like WWE knows how to present people. WWE knows how to do things. Don't change that.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
Like let people come in. Let people come in. Let them do their thing. Let them get to the point where like, you know, you present them as a big deal. Do that in NXT. Do that in NXT. You need some big heavy hitters. You need some big guys to come in and like become a heavy hitter for your brand, to become the top guy in your brand. WWE signing him they don't need him on the main roster yet. And I'm not saying he's going to go to WWE and immediately be met with success, but you need to make some changes to NXT. I want to see international talent come to NXT. I would actually, you know, we saw this with Julia and Stephanie Vicker.
Yep.
I want to see more international talent come into NXT being presented as a big deal, so that way they could eventually transition to the main roster as a bigger deal. The NXT brand, you're going to have your NIL talent, you're going to have your WWE ID talent, but what about your global recruiting skills? You know,
and trying to do that.
And there's a plethora of guys in Japan, in Mexico, and in the UK who are not signed at all. And I'm just sitting here wondering, like, who's going to sign them? And I don't want to get too far off track. I think Wagner Jr. coming to WWE. The rumors are there. It sounds like it's going to happen. There's a lot of opportunity for him to happen. But, like, look at Michael Oku from Rev Pro Wrestling. Like, he works AEW's pre-show at Wembley, and then Tony Khan doesn't sign him. And I'm just like, you just presented this guy and he's not signed anywhere, and you presented him and made him look so cool and good, and he's there, and
now he's nothing.
So if I'm WWE and I'm looking at NXT and I'm like, damn, we're struggling with this main event scene for the men. Yeah. I start hitting those international markets.
Yeah, go and get them.
I don't know, man. They gotta do something. They gotta do something to change it up. And listen, Chris Featherstone, he's been knocking it out of the park with these reports. Obviously, there's a lot of talk and a lot of rumors of you know, what could potentially, you know, happen and what can't happen. But look at Penta just coming into WWE.
For sure.
You know, look at Penta, and they bring him in and they present him well, and people really love him. And you know, I don't know, like I can't stress this enough. I think WWE, they need to become a little bit more aggressive with their international talent approach. You got to change the narrative that talent that come internationally aren't going to be booked like shit. They're not going to be put in some shitty gimmick. They're going to be taken seriously. So it starts with Penta. We'll see the follow-up with Penta on Raw tonight. But like, I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, bro, like there's so many free agents that could be brought in, and you have a certain need. I need WWE to change their approach to that. I do. I need them to. I know immediately everybody says, oh, WWE going after Josh Alexander, Joe Hendry, Jordan Grace. That's cool. But those are people that, like, in America, people already know. When you bring an international talent in and you give them everything, the packaging and the presentation and the cool music, and you do that for them, that's when it becomes, hey, WWE made this person, right?
Right.
And I think WWE needs to do that. And starting people off in NXT is not a bad thing. NXT is doing very, very well. They're selling tickets. Their ratings are great. This is a company that's figuring it out. So I do want NXT to take that approach. If they bring in Wagner Jr., amazing. If they don't bring him in, that's completely fine. But just understand that you have a problem. You can fix it. And there's a lot of people that Tony Khan isn't signing.
And just kind of leaving out.
But it makes you wonder, why hasn't he signed with AEW?
Well, I think we talked about that in today's stream a little bit, Ango.
You think the culture and all that stuff is turning people away?
Yeah. Oh God, yeah. We'd be naive to sit here and say that it's not.
Yeah, but you don't even see reports of Tony Khan even trying to make these offers.
That's also true. But I think when you look at, like, I don't know. I mean, I can only say if I put myself in somebody's shoes. I can't say for sure, but I can be honest and say if I were sitting, and I were watching somebody like Ricky Starks not get the things that they so rightfully deserve, and as humans we know they deserve, I would to sit here. Oh, excuse me, I cut out. I would have to sit here and say like yeah, that would probably rub me the wrong way a little bit because I don't know. I've watched numerous things on Ricky Starks. I've followed him, me personally, for a long time. Again, this is all just me personally. I followed him for a very long time. Like, I don't know. I'd feel I'd feel rubbed the wrong way, I guess, would be the way that I'd take that, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely think it has something to do with your backstage culture and people looking at some of the reports that are coming out and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's crazy, man. My bold prediction is that WWE is going to have some very shocking signings this year. Whether or not they can afford to keep everybody there, and not like from a money perspective, but from a TV time perspective, I think WWE will definitely just go after certain talent just to keep them away from AEW. I think I do predict that AEW will lose some very key talent to WWE. And I think once that happens, we'll see a complete shift that really becomes detrimental to AEW's growth. But yeah, I mean, WWE going after the international market, where I feel like that's what makes AEW, because they've brought in so many international talent and they've done a good job with them. And then you start to realize WWE has a problem they can fix. And like, I want to see it happen. I want to see WWE improve in that area. This would be one of the ways to improve.
For sure.
With that being said, though, we're going to get to our next super chat.
Mm-hmm.
Luke Newman dropping $1.99. He says, could WWE pick up Speedball Mike Bailey for NXT?
I mean, is his contract up anytime soon?
His contract's up with TNA. It's been up with TNA, and he's been rumored to go to AEW, and it hasn't happened yet.
Whoops. Then, yeah, I mean, for sure. Why not, right? What would stop him? I know he's been rumored to go to AEW, but again, here we are having this conversation. Would it be wrong for Mike Bailey? Ango?
I would rather much see. This is where I become anti-AEW and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, but, I was about to say, this is where you're
Mike Bailey was supposed to be in WWE NXT like 10 years ago. And listen, I would have much rather preferred to see him in NXT. Again, they have a problem. This is not a problem. AEW doesn't have a problem right now. NXT does. So obviously I would, selfishly say he should go to NXT.
Go help. Yeah, go help NXT a little bit.
Go become top of NXT. Go do your thing in NXT and be this top guy. For him to go to AEW, it probably makes the most sense because he doesn't have to worry about promos and charisma and all those things. All he can do is just go wrestle. But yes, Luke Newman just dropped another super chat, and this is very fair. He says they said the same thing to MCMG to debut at AEW.
AEW, right.
That is true. A lot of people thought he was going to go to AEW. That obviously wasn't true. MCMG did go to WWE. Listen, I like Speedball Mike Bailey a lot. I love this guy. I think he's talented. I think he's one of the better workhorse people out there. He wrestles WrestleMania weekend 100 trillion fucking times because he's a beast. He's just a different animal. He's cut from a different cloth. So for me personally, seeing him leave TNA really hurt me because he's one of those guys I fucking love. And obviously I love TNA. But if he goes to AEW over NXT, or if he goes to NXT over AEW, it doesn't matter. I'm happy for him. Just for the fact that I know he'll be paid well and he'll be taken care of. He'll do great work
wherever he is.
Yes, even if AEW, let's say he goes to AEW or he goes to NXT and they don't book him on the top of the card, they don't take him to the top, they don't build him up, whatever, but he's just there. Like, just in general, I would be very happy for him because I feel like, if you want to be serious, like WWE and AEW could pay him a lot more than TNA. And I would be happy when I see a guy like that whose work ethic is like that and he's that talented. I'd look to think, man, They deserve it. So I think Speedball deserves all the success and everything. And I would love for him to go to AEW and be treated as a big deal. He was rumored to be in the Continental Classic. That didn't happen. He was rumored to be in the Casino Gauntlet. That didn't happen. Like, at some point, it just, I would love to see him succeed. Luke Newman dropping another super chat, says WWE could pick up Jonathan Gresham. We'll see. We don't know his situation with TNA. We know that his contract is set to end as well. There was rumors that WWE was looking at bringing in Jonathan Gresham to become a coach. Yeah, we'll see. I don't know. I like the guy a lot. So
I like Jonathan Gresham a lot too.
I always wonder why TNA didn't do a little bit more with him.
Facts. I see Arthur Collins in the chat. He told me I have a nice cap. Arthur, I'm hurt about this cap right now.
Oh yeah, the Lions lost.
Yeah, very hurt about it.
Well,
love my boys, but man.
Yeah.
Whew.
I don't even want to talk about that. Fuck.
No, we can. No, it's a very dark day on Saturday.
Yeah, UFC was good.
Yeah, it was. UFC was good.
It lowered the blow from the Lions.
That's you, Ango. I would have to disagree.
Well, that's just because my good friends at DraftKings,
yeah. And then on top of that, TikTok went dark.
Oh, dude, you know what's crazy? I don't know. I haven't checked it yet, but CapCut was also cut out.
CapCut is still cut out.
Is it? So the thing is, I used to use Adobe Premiere, you know this? And then eventually I switched to CapCut. And a law banning CapCut has been enacted in the U.S. Unfortunately, that means you can't use CapCut for now. Rest assured, we're working to restore our service in the U.S. Please stay tuned. So basically what they're telling me is to get fucked and go spend $80 a month for Adobe. Crazy.
Adobe, yep.
No, I'm going to have to figure out another solution because I can't. Really, that's all it's for. But dude, it was funny because it was actually a funny ass weekend. Let's talk about this. So we had the Lions game. Yeah. Okay, so this is what I did, right? I went to the North American International Auto Show. They bring it to Detroit every year. Dude, this was fucking cool. The amount of badass cars. It just it was super
cool
sick.
Because I seen a bunch of pictures of it.
Super cool. And the luxury cars and some of the concept cars, just really badass time. Obviously, I was also with some really, really good people and friends that at these points, these people are like my family now. So I really, really enjoyed my time with them and hanging out and looking at these cars. Sick as fuck, bro. So Saturday, right? This is how it works. Saturday, we go watch the auto show. Now, at the same time, I have on my phone the Pistons score against the Suns. I'm pissed the fuck off because the Pistons are looking good and they lose to the Suns, and we've beat the Suns before. Stupid, but we lose. Okay, we leave Detroit. We head back home. We're grabbing food and setting up for the night, because we're going to watch the Lions and UFC. I have the first half on the Lions, and I'm just disappointed. I'm sad. I'm scared. I already knew. My mind made up. I was like, we lost. We're going to lose.
Yep.
Cut the feed to UFC. Get some badass UFC fights. Literally by the co-main event or whatever, I get the notification on my phone and it tells me the Lions are eliminated. So as soon as that happens, I'm like, shit. At the same time, all the girls are looking at TikTok and they're like, TikTok shut down. Billy, I see TikTok being shut down and I'm like, fuck, I don't know what to do. I didn't realize how much I use TikTok and then I'm like, fuck.
Dude, that's what I'm saying. I was sitting here. I'm sitting at my girlfriend's house, right? And I'm sitting there, dude, she's like, you're a crash out. I'm like, what do you mean I'm a crash out? She's like, you're crashing out. Dude, I'm sitting there scrolling Instagram Reels. Pissed off. I'm talking mad. I'm like, I hate this shit. Couldn't believe it, dude. Couldn't believe it. As soon as TikTok went dark, I was like, oh, this is the worst night of my life. I took my Jared Goff jersey off. I threw it on the ground. I was in full crash out mode. And then seeing the Pistons lose, mad as hell about that, because on top of that, Jahmyr Gibbs during the game did the little Kevin Durant dance. Kevin Durant's from Washington, and then he gets to mock us. So I'm pissed about that now too. I'm like, I can't win. Bro, I'm like, this is the worst night of my life.
What a fun ass weekend. But finding out the Lions lost just killed me. And the thing is, UFC was great. UFC was amazing. and we're just all there, and we're having a good time, and we're watching.
Yeah,
and,
for sure.
bro, when the girls say TikTok is officially shut down, they're showing us like the error message.
Yeah.
For some reason, my TikTok was still working.
Yeah, because it took a minute for everybody to
so
fully
then I get
shut down.
Then I get booted off the app. I check it. I'm like, oh shit. And then what's crazy is I was like, I get a message on DMs. One of my boys DMs me on Twitter, and he goes, hey. He's like, what do we do? Because we both switched from Adobe to CapCut. So he's like, what do we do? I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, CapCut's shut down. I'm like, what?
Banned too.
I freaking love CapCut. What a great service, bro. This shit works amazing.
Well, dude, that's why everybody was like, oh yeah, just go to Lemon 8. I was like, they're gonna ban that shit too.
They did. They banned all that shit. And Instagram Reels ain't the same, man. So TikTok is back and running, so you guys can follow us on TikTok.
Billy TKO, go follow me because I do post over there a lot, and I do pretty well on there.
Yeah, TikTok owes me some money, so we'll see if I get that money now. I don't know, but it's funny, bro. I was like, I checked my balance.
Hold on. Does anybody know? Did Trump sign the executive order yet to place it for 90 days?
Brother, they're watching the Ango show over the inauguration.
Oh yeah, that's right.
We're winning the ratings war.
Yeah, you guys don't need that.
Yeah. I think he did say he's going to extend it, but he wrote something about like the government trying to own 50% of it or something like that. Or
I did see that. I did see that.
So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But yeah, dude, that was crazy. I remember the whole weekend. I was just like, the Lions lost, the Pistons lost. The auto show was sick, man. The auto show, because I haven't gone since I was a kid. So like, the auto show was really cool. And then of course, when you get home and you're ready to just relax and have some food and some drinks,
where did they have the auto show?
Whatever, it was Cobo Center, but whatever they changed.
Cobo
Hall, but they changed the name of that place to something else. So
okay, all right.
But it was just so funny because then like, wow, this was a fun night, and then to turn on the Lions game and I see Jared Goff throw a pick six, and I'm like,
oh my God. And then he got hit. Like I seen somebody, they were like, Jared Goff got hit so hard that he went back and played with the Rams.
Yeah, I don't know, bro. That was wild. And then freaking UFC was great. I mean, just a really good pay-per-view, and it was fun, and it was a fun night. And that was the thing, right? Like, it was a fun weekend. Obviously, Detroit sports wasn't good, but as you can imagine, come Sunday, we have TNA Genesis, and I'm just watching it. And I wanted to do a post show, but honestly, like with how I was feeling lately, I was like, I kind of want to go to bed early, relax, come back, do this live stream, be energized, stick to our time stuff, and obviously there's a lot to talk about.
By the way,
huh?
We're killing our time slot.
Yeah, this is amazing. I love it.
I gotta prop us.
No, I gotta prop the community. So let's do that. Actually, Kevin Schiffman, Luke Newman, Tolino Channel. Thank you, especially Tolino Channel and Luke Newman, just pulling through with super chats. Jay Henry, Curvin, YouTube fan Chester, David Decker, Kitty Michael, Alberto. Just so many of you guys in the chat. Appreciate you guys, Cedric, everybody who's coming through to the chats every single day. And honestly, man, like I really appreciate it. This is fun. Tomorrow we're going to talk about Raw. We're going to talk about NXT. We're going to talk about whatever drama there is for the day. It's going to be a really good time on this show. 12 o'clock. At the very minimum, we'll go an hour. Sometimes we might go 2 hours, depending on the time or depending on the topics. And I'm very, very excited for the future of the show. I appreciate all of you who have come through. One of the things I want to say, too, as part of the special shout-outs, the one thing I've really been happy with is we could talk about likes and super chats, and we could talk about views and all that stuff. That's cool. But what I really, really started to appreciate more is watching the average view duration of the show, and these numbers are incredibly strong. So you guys come through, you guys are utilizing the chat, you guys are talking, you guys are watching, you guys are engaged. We engage with you guys. And I appreciate that because it's the afternoon. I know people got their lives and we got things to do. And, so when you guys spend your time with us, I really do appreciate that. For sure.
Yeah. Love it, man.
Yeah.
Love it.
Oh, it feels good to be part of the Ango Army. Another win for TAS. We just beat the inauguration in total viewers. No, I'm kidding.
Let's go.
I'm kidding, obviously. I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Obviously a big day, though, in America because the president is changing. And, I know a lot of people's attention is there. So for those who like to listen about wrestling talk and stuff, we appreciate you guys giving us your time. And tonight's Raw should be stacked. So I'm super excited about it. Billy predicted that Raw will go 2 hours and 7 minutes. And my prediction was 2 hours,
right.
2 hours and 43 minutes. So we'll see who wins tomorrow. We'll open up the show with the results. And
yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, guys, thank you all for pulling up, showing love, showing out.
Y'all are so beautiful.
Appreciate y'all. And we'll see you guys tomorrow.
Peace.